What is going on, YouTube? Andrew Miller from Hook'emHeadlines.com coming back at you today talking about the return of third-team AP All-American linebacker Jaylan Ford for the 2023 season. Earlier this afternoon on Twitter, Ford announced that he will be returning for his fourth year in college. He will probably be looking to boost his NFL draft stock a little bit. He was one of the potential early departures for the NFL draft heading into the offseason, but I think it's probably a good move for him and obviously a huge addition for the Texas defense to have him back for his senior campaign. I want to talk about kind of what it means for Texas to get him back in the fold and what the linebacker position could look like in 2023, considering he'll kind of be the staple of that position group for Texas next season. So like I said, Jaylan Ford got third-team All-American honors from the Associated Press this year. I believe he was also a second-team All-American from The Athletic, and I'm sure there were a few other outlets that considered him for similar awards or honors, but he definitely raked in the hardware for the 2022 campaign, and rightly so. I've voiced it before that I feel like he was the deserving Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year, certainly the most statistically impressive among all Big 12 defenders, but I digress there. He's just a really, really important player to this defense. He emerged as a true playmaker for Texas during the 2022 season. Finished up that campaign with nearly 120 combined tackles, led the Big 12 in assisted tackles, and ranked second in solo tackles. 4 interceptions, which led all Big 12 linebackers. 2 pass breakups, 18 quarterback pressures, 53 stops, and then 3 forced fumbles, 2 fumble recoveries. I tweeted out for the site today that he was actually the only player in the FBS last season that registered at least 10 tackles for loss, 4 interceptions, 2 forced fumbles, and 2 fumble recoveries, which is just a good illustration of the sort of impact he had on multiple phases of the game for the Texas defense. I mentioned he emerged as a true playmaker, just a real difference maker for Texas at middle linebacker last season. He was kind of the emergence that Texas needed. Him and DeMarvion Overshown also were just a really, really solid duo. A duo that was one of the catalysts for Texas having the most, I would say probably the most improved defense in the Big 12 in 2022. Certainly one of the most improved units in the Power 5. So, let's kind of take a look forward. Like I said, what this means for Texas in general and what the linebacker position will look like. So, in 2023, I was assuming that Jaylan Ford would return. He's going to be a really, really important piece that will allow this run defense to still be one of the best in the Big 12. Texas had one of the best run defenses in the Big 12 in 2022, largely thanks to the ability of DeMarvion Overshown, to blow up a lot of plays in opposing teams' backfield. And then also just Jaylan Ford's ability to find the football. He was second in the Big 12 in run stops in 2022, had 39 on the season, and he was the leader among Big 12 linebackers in run stop percentage. Had about a 12.1% run stop percentage, which means that he had successful run stops or even stuffs, as some people might know it. 12% of plays that he was on the field, which is pretty massive by comparison. Even the upper half of the highest graded Big 12 linebackers in run defense had a run stop percentage usually around 7 or 8%. So Ford was very, very frequently, stepping up and constituting successful plays for the Texas defensive front. In pass coverage, he was much improved last year. He was I believe one of the 4 highest graded Big 12 linebackers, one of the 3 highest graded Big 12 linebackers in pass coverage last season. He also had the lowest allowed QBR in pass coverage, meaning that if he was the primary cover guy on someone, often for him was underneath in the flats, but sometimes taking tight ends down the seam, down the field. He was targeted 55 times in pass coverage last season, And while he allowed 40 receptions, he really didn't let many plays get behind him. Again, I'll mention the 4 interceptions, the 2 pass breakups. He had 1 batted ball. He was when he was targeted, he was making a lot of plays on the ball, or at least keeping the play in front of him at the very least. And so that's something that was huge for Texas to have at the linebacker position. And once again, will be very impactful next year, because who do you have coming into the fold? You have freshman 5-star linebacker Anthony Hill, the #1 rated 2023 linebacker recruit in the nation. The assumption now is that the top 2 linebackers for Texas next season, the starting duo, will be Anthony Hill and Jaylan Ford. I'd imagine that Hill will probably be like a hybrid will linebacker. I've heard something mentioned before here and there that he's kind of this hybrid boundary inside linebacker. And that's just largely because he took a lot of reps at inside linebacker at Denton Ryan. An athlete of his caliber, that is kind of rare. Usually those sort of guys with his level of athleticism at about, 6'3", 225, in that ballpark, that usually they'll be coming off the outside, just given their pure physical traits. But, Hill has that tackling ability, the hard-hitting nature in his game already, the run-stopping ability, and some capabilities in the pass rush that he was able to play more on the inside and still be a force in that spot. That said, he's still got some room for improvement, especially in pass coverage. I spent a couple minutes talking about how Ford stood out in pass coverage last season, and Ford being someone that can cover multiple areas of the field when he needs to drop back into pass coverage, that can mask maybe some of the more questionable areas of Hill's game in pass coverage. I think that there's still questions regarding Hill's ability to just play the ball and ball instincts in coverage, as well as being able to contest space if he's brought, more than maybe 4 or 5 yards down the field. So, having Ford there will mask a lot of those questions, and it just gives Texas a really, really formidable duo, especially when you talk about rushing the passer and just generally being disruptive in run defense. They can wreak a lot of havoc around or behind the line of scrimmage. I mentioned Hill is a very, very capable downhill linebacker. He can blow up a lot of plays. He's a real playmaker when it comes to chasing down the ball carrier and run defense, or even getting after the passer if he's got an advantageous matchup. You combine that with Ford's ability to find the ball, some of the plays he made, and just the consistency of which he plugged gaps in run defense last season. And you can see how this linebacker duo is going to be something special. I think they could still be the best linebacker duo in the Big 12 next season. I think Overshone and Ford definitely competed for that title in 2022. I had tweeted out something earlier this year, maybe late last year, to the tune of, the combined production between Ford and Overshone was something that you really didn't get from anyone else in the entire conference in terms of combined tackles, stops, tackles for loss, and pass breakups. I would have to check back just to be sure on what that was. But I'll end up putting something in the description below or something over this. Anyway, the ceiling could be even higher. The secondary looks really solid right now between some of the additions, Gavin Holmes and Jalen Catalon out of the portal. You got 4- and 5-star Malik Muhammad and Derek Williams coming into the secondary from the 2023 recruiting class among the high school prospects. And then along the defensive line, you got Byron Murphy, Tavondre Sweat, Alfred Collins returning along the interior. You've got on the edges guys like Barron Sorrell, Ethan Burke, Justice Finkley, Jamon Tapp returning, along with four true edge rushers that signed in the 2023 class among the high school guys. Cecilia Kana, Colton Vashik. I still feel that Billy Walton, former Oklahoma State commit, 3-star edge out of South Oak Cliff, is a guy that's pretty underrated. In terms of the personnel that Texas has coming back in 2023, while the defense might not be returning as many starters as the offense, this group might be more talented. I guess Texas quarterback room is about as talented as you can get. But that aside, this Texas defense has a lot of talent and a lot of returning production coming back. In the spots where you lose a key starter, a DeMarvion Overshone, a Moro Jomo, a Keandre Coburn, you got Deshaun Jameson even. You got guys that are coming in that I think, especially at a spot like field corner where you got Holmes, Muhammad, and Terrence Brooks competing for starting reps. Along the interior, you got Murphy getting another year in the system. You got T'Vondre Sweat, who was massively improved. There's just a lot to be excited about on this defense. And I really think Jaylan Ford returning was kind of that missing piece to saying, yeah, Texas has, what is it now, 6 or 7 returning starters on defense? I think it's 6 that are going to be leaders for this unit. And then you got some younger guys and transfers coming into the fold that will make an immediate impact and look ready to compete at the Power 5 level right away. So I'm really excited about this bunch. Again, getting Jaylan Ford back, I can't mention how huge this is. Rightful Defensive Player of the Year in the Big 12. One of the biggest playmakers at the position in the entire country at middle linebacker. And then kind of at this hybrid will linebacker position, you'll have Anthony Hill coming into the fold that I think will be really, really impressive right away for Texas. So anyway, that's pretty much it. For Andrew Miller at Hook'emHeadlines.com. Hook 'em.